We have a big podcast today. You want to start the podcast?
Today I think is maybe the biggest one we've done so far.
Today is the biggest one we've done, and it's Dr. Zach right there, Dr. Zach Levine. He is, the best ER doctor I've ever met. I don't frequent ERs, but if I did, I'd look for you. I'm Chantal Desjardins, and this is episode 3 of Dr. Zach and Chantal's awesome podcast. Now, this week we have some super awesome topics. Not that the other weeks weren't super awesome.
Oh, I don't even know what they are. I don't even know what we're talking about today. So this is fun.
Well, get ready. Buckle in, Zach, Dr. Zach. When someone comes in unconscious, we're going to find out. Can you fingerprint them, or is that, against the rules? We'll, just in case you're ever in an ER and you wonder that, now we're going to give you the answer. Let's say there's a guy with a tattoo and it says, do not resuscitate, which is a strange idea for a tattoo, by the way. Like I've heard of, the teardrop, that's a regret. Do not resuscitate. I'd say that would be maybe a regret, but.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe not. So we'll find out what would happen.
I don't know if the teardrop is either. It depends which gang you're in.
You know, it's funny. I sold a something on Facebook, like the marketplace thing, like an old chest that came with this house, and the guy walked in with teardrop tattoos. Yeah, I didn't want to be judgy, but I
hope you sold to him at whatever price he wanted, because
I gave it to him for free. I just said, "Have a great day," and
And anything else you want, sir?
Yeah, just take everything. Take the whole house.
Okay.
And then let's talk about doctors making mistakes. You touched on it last week. You can tell
I touch on that all the time.
Yeah, and because doctors are human. We all make mistakes. The rest of us make mistakes, but we hold doctors to a higher standard.
I guess. I just finished work, right?
Yeah.
I worked, how motivated I am to do this podcast. I worked through the night, and then I take off my scrubs and I put on a fancy shirt that I never ever wear, just so I can talk to you.
Oh, that's nice. And scrub bottoms. You're definitely not wearing pants, right? This is pandemic has taught us that nobody ever has to wear pants.
Well, especially for a video podcast. You don't see anyone below the waist, so
no. If you did, it would be a very different podcast.
It's like the mullet, right? It's the party. Wait, the party is the lower part, and the business is the upper part.
Right. We're the mullet of podcasts. Well, let's talk about what happened last night, because, I just dealt with a barfing dog who decided he wants to eat the trees outside and puked up the wood. But you had to deal with like real things.
Barfing humans.
Wow.
It was a mix. It was a real mix last night, I'll tell you. There's the typical stuff, the chest pains, the abdominal pains. At one of the places where I work, it really depends on the site, because one of the places I work is a big cancer center, so you see a lot of like super sad cases. And it's also, people just being treated for cancer are very sick, so chemotherapy is a very toxic, in both good and bad ways, treatment. So it's basically a poison, and it's directed towards the cancer, and it kills the cancer. However, the problem is it has side effects, and it's very powerful, and so there's a lot of chemotherapy side effects, but not just, cancer is a lot worse, and so you see, and cancer, depending on which cancer, some cancers are better than others. There's no good cancers, but some are worse than others in the sense of how aggressive they are. So
what's a good cancer?
Oh, well, so I mean, any cancer is better caught earlier, that's for sure. So that's the whole reason that we try and screen people when they're symptom free. That's what screening means, right? Is to do a test for cancer before someone has any symptoms. And that's by far the best time to catch it, because the earlier on, the more likely you're going to cure it. If you catch a cancer, especially an aggressive cancer, so the bad ones, and this is just off the top of my head, so I'm going to miss some, but like really bad ones in terms of spreading and being very deadly are things like pancreas cancer, esophagus cancer, ovarian cancer, melanoma. Even, you mentioned colorectal cancer, which can be, a terrible cancer. Any of them can be if they've had a chance to spread throughout the body.
Right.
And, if they spread to and certain cancers spread to certain places, So for example, melanoma, probably everyone's heard of melanoma. It's one of the skin cancers, and it's not the most common skin cancer, but it is the most aggressive and deadly skin cancer, and it tends to spread to the brain. So if someone comes in with a a bad headache or a seizure and they have a history of melanoma, our worry is, do they have a metastasis to the brain?
Whoa.
And yeah, and that, which is, unfortunately, we find that sometimes. And then you have to look at how you're treating that, which can be surgical, which would be with radiation. We often use steroids, which decrease the inflammation around the metastasis. But um, it's anyway. I feel like I've gotten us onto a sad topic.
A whole other thing, but I'm interested because you said I was tanned this morning. You're like, you know how good tanning is
You
for
are,
you.
you know what the problem is? The problem is 10, 10 looks good, right? Like I think most people
Tan
agree with
looks
that.
good.
It looks healthy, but it's the opposite. And I feel the same way. Like I know I look
You're
like even
very pasty. You're very pasty. You're pasty
no,
now.
and I know like during the summer, if I've worked all night and I haven't slept in 2 days, but I have a tan, I don't look tired.
Yeah.
The rest of the year, I can have slept 12 hours and I look like
Yeah.
death's door, So tan looks good, uh, but it's just not good. I mean, it's the body's very ineffectual way of trying to protect itself when the sun is beating down on it.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I
it's
put
easy,
sunscreen on all the time. It's just I live,
you live.
I live on the lake now and it's like there's a lot of sun and the sun reflects and then I just get, I'm like, oh, I'm tanned again. But then but you also kind of look good.
Yeah, exactly. You can't help it. I mean, there are. I don't really use much, but like there's these self tanners also.
Do you use a self tanner?
I've never used, but someone in my household.
Okay.
I've no, no. I mean, I've put it on once or twice. I don't think it actually looks as good, but
No.
it's like much healthier than actually getting.
I can never do it well. It leaves streaks, I've got like handprints on my arm and
Yeah. So yeah, and it also kind of smells because
it smells.
it may be someone that I
No.
share a bed with sometimes. I won't get into it, but someone I'm allowed to,
Right.
and I can always tell when that person has put on self tanner.
Right.
And also, the other problem with tanning and the sun and the UV rays is not just cancer, but it's skin aging, it's cataracts.
Yeah, like look at me. I'm actually a 10-year-old kid right now. It's just living in the sun.
Wow.
I
Well,
look
at least it hasn't aged you to look 80.
Yeah.
It's aged you to look what, 20?
Yeah, 21. I like
21.
that. I like that. Remember when everybody used to go fake baking, like go to like Fabutan and all that stuff?
Yes.
I used
I
to go
think
all the
they,
time. I used to go weekly.
wow. I think they still exist, right?
I don't
Like
know. Does anybody go? I thought it's so bad for you that everyone's like, "Oh no, that's not."
it's so bad for you. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I understand the reason people do it, but it's not a good idea. And some people before they go away, like before they go south, they'll do
Yeah.
that so they don't burn,
Yeah.
which makes some sense.
Does that make sense? My mom does that.
Well, it makes some sense. It is true that like a really bad burn, one could say is potentially worse than getting a tan because then you have even more damage being done all at once. And a burn is a burn, like a burn from the sun is graded the same way a burn from other things is graded, like with the, first degree, second degree, third degree. So it does a lot of damage. So, but having said that, it's you're still just by
Yeah.
virtue of getting the tan, you're damaging your skin. There's no great way. So, the best thing to do is to wear a lot of sunscreen and a hat. And, they have clothing that covers you all over. I know we weren't planning to talk about this, but it is getting hot.
Here we are.
It is sunny and hot now. So we have to be cognizant of this. And people are actually, yeah, I mean, people are going to come in with burns and also probably with like heat illness and dehydration, those sorts of things. Because none of us, especially here where we live, we're used to being cold much of the year. And then it gets to be 30 degrees, 40 with.
We're like, woo!
Exactly. We get out there, we don't hydrate, and then we just and then, when we drink. So we dehydrate ourselves
Not
even
this
more.
guy.
No, not you,
Obviously.
of course. I wasn't talking to anyone. And then, anyway, and then with drinking, we
What do
get
you think's in this coffee?
I'm sure just something very healthy, water.
Yeah.
But then with drinking, I know I'm tangential today, but with drinking, we end up at the other hospital I work is a trauma center. And as people drink, they do silly things, stupid things, and then they get injured, right? They get in car accidents, they beat each other up or stab each other. And so all these things in the summer is when you get a lot more trauma in a place like Montreal where it's, people are out, especially
Yeah.
if and when social distancing ends, and
Never.
people party and people
Yeah.
drink and do things they shouldn't do, they'll get injured and then they'll go to the trauma center. And what we see a lot here actually is bike accidents.
Oh, people drinking a pint of vodka and then deciding to go for a bike ride?
Yeah. So you don't
No.
necessarily kill yourself. Sorry, you don't necessarily hurt others when you bike drunk. You might be able to do that, but you might hurt yourself very severely.
Ah, interesting.
And bike versus car is a very bad mechanism of injury. We always
Yeah.
look at mechanism, so like a pedestrian versus a car is much worse for the pedestrian than the person in the car. And car versus car, cars are actually quite well made. It's not that people don't die anymore, but it's quite amazing now how protected we are in our cocoon. We're lucky. But if you're a pedestrian, and every year we see a number of pedestrians die. And I also think of, the bus, the mirrors on buses.
Yeah. They could take you out.
They're like a perfect height to hit people in the head. And people die. Every year people die getting
Really?
hit.
I've never heard of somebody getting taken out by a mirror, but like when I'm walking on the sidewalk, I do notice that they come very close to the old noggin,
They do. I mean, I guess these are things that don't make it to the press. I don't think they publicize certain deaths, right? I think
suicides, they don't, but like you'd think death by mirror, you'd think that might make it.
Certainly when someone like drives up on the curb and kills people,
right?
Even accidentally, that makes the news.
Yeah.
So probably death by mirror does, but maybe it's not a
common one.
Front page or whatnot.
Yeah, maybe people are good at just getting out of the way. The Matrix. So now that we're halfway down our podcast for the day, do you want to start on our topics?
Yeah, sorry about that. So well, we talked. Well, so the one you talked about was the DNR tattoo.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
That was a real article. I think it was in the New England Journal, actually, like which is like the hoo-ha journal for
is it the hoo-ha?
medicine.
Okay.
It was like the big journal, and it was a real case. And a guy came in. I'll make up. I know it was a man. I think he was like middle age, 40s or 50s, and his heart had stopped. A whole other thing I could go on a tangent about, which I won't. But what a heart attack is, what cardiac arrest is.
We have many more weeks. We can touch on those.
Do we ever? We have we're signed for like 81 weeks or something.
Yeah. I'm on a no trade contract, so I can't even work with other doctors. Like I'm locked in.
Wow, that's exclusive.
Your agent was very good.
I'm glad to see you not playing the field. I'm tricked by that. Anyway, totally off track. So this guy came in with cardiac arrest, and one of the problems we have frequently is in those cases, does this person have advanced directives, right? Like, do they want resuscitation? Like, some people are clear that they don't want to be resuscitated. Like,
and how would you know that? Like, would they have it written in their wallet? Do they have like a bracelet on that, like one of those medic alert bracelets or something?
That's the problem. There's no good way. It's usually a paper document, and usually you need someone to be able to tell you that. I'm not aware.
Of course, it's not like you're carrying it around with you just in case this is the day you get hit by a bus or have a heart attack.
Exactly. No, exactly. So our default is always resuscitate everyone. But sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes we see someone very, very sick from, let's say they have cancer everywhere, or let's say they're very old, very sick for other reasons. And we know that if we do get them back, their quality of life is going to be terrible. And in fact, if we know that, if we have that knowledge and we resuscitate someone, then, the US is much more litigious than we are, but someone could sue if you resuscitate them and they have a terrible quality of life, and you had the knowledge that they did not want to be resuscitated.
Jeez.
So that's, anyway. But our default is to resuscitate generally, right? And of course, the younger and healthier someone is, the harder it is for us to let go. But the problem is, we don't know. And unless we have someone telling us, we go ahead with it,
of course,
which most healthy people want. This guy had the bright idea, because there's no good way to know. He said, you know what, I really don't want to be resuscitated for whatever reason. Some people have seen family members who are kept alive by machines, and they're just like, that's not for me.
But I mean, there's a difference if you're just going to be kept alive by a machine, or if you're going to be fine. You give a little bump and you're like good to go. Like, feel like
That's it.
then you should want to.
Yeah, and you don't know what kind of cardiac arrest you're going to come in with, So
Right.
you're right. Some of them are quite reversible.
It would be a long tattoo if you had to say like, sub note, if it's a bad one, let me go. But if it's one that
Yeah,
you know,
a whole bunch of, yes, exactly. A whole
and like
bunch of notes like
what
if it,
font would you use? Like it's just there's a whole stream of questioning.
you're right. You'd have to meet with a lawyer about it. All right. So in this guy's case, it was in the States. They did resuscitate him. So they did not listen to the tattoo, which said do not resuscitate. And then, so they got him back. And then eventually, with the help of like a lawyer and a hospital ethicist, uh, they were able to determine what his actual will was. The, the other problem with this is you can always change your mind, right? So we do have people who have do not resuscitate advance directive, and they come in, or their family do.
Mm,
Uh, if they're not competent, their family do, and you can change your mind at any time, right? As long as you're competent, you can decide, you know what, I want to live. Even if I'm paralyzed, it's worth it for me to see my grandchildren, blah blah blah.
right.
So that's the problem. If you put this tattoo on your chest, is that good forever? What if you changed your mind? What if you did this 3 years ago and something's changed and now you have a
Exactly.
reason to
You'd have to change the tattoo into like a butterfly or something.
live? Yeah, exactly. So in any case, that was just a case that came in, and it was was hotly debated, and it was hard for the doctors to decide what to do. But the default is always to resuscitate, and then you have to figure out what the person's desires were. And then yes, once you have the person on the machine, the thing for us is once you've resuscitated them, if you know that they're not going to do well, you can always stop that, right? You can,
You
I
can
mean,
make them come to life and then pull the plug.
well, essentially, yeah. I mean, you can do that if you know that their quality of life is going to be poor.
Oh.
What it does is it gives the family a chance to come in, to see the person, to talk about it. It's a lot less sudden than getting a call in the middle of the night, which
Yeah.
which I've had to do recently
Oh no.
uh, for a person who's dead. And I don't like giving that on the phone, obviously, but sometimes. Anyway, depending on where people are, sometimes you have to give that news
Yeah.
remote. It's very
This
hard.
just got real sad, Zach. Real sad.
Why do I keep doing that? It's not on purpose,
Real
but
heavy. Real
we are,
heavy.
we are,
With Dr.
are
Zach.
talking about, we are talking about death.
Heavy
So
moments. Yeah, but up till now it was funny and then it just got sad.
the thing about death is that it is a bit weird, like, because you can be dead 1 second and not the next.
like Flatliners, the movie with Kiefer Sutherland
Yes,
in the
which
90s.
we talked about and which I've never seen. But if people come in and their heart has stopped, they are dead, and if you leave them that way. I have a friend actually who had a heart attack, pretty young guy in his 40s, but he had a family history, and he had a cardiac arrest, which essentially means your heart isn't effectively pumping. You have no blood flow to your vessels, to your brain, to everything else, and you will die. And he was lucky. It happened to him in a public place where there was a defibrillator, and so he was revived, and he had heart surgery. He had a bypass, and he's fine now. The week prior to that, he was away. He was saying, "Well, I was in Europe. I was swimming in the ocean alone." So if that had happened to him, swimming
Yeah.
in the ocean alone, he would have remained dead,
Yeah.
as opposed to he was here in the city surrounded by people, and he was only dead for 30 seconds because they revived him.
Right.
That's a bit crazy.
That
It
is
makes
crazy.
you, I mean, those are the times you want to be in a city, like I love getting away and being alone. And
Please hold.
someone,
My
oh,
mom's calling.
oh, well, can you put her on? That would be fun.
No, we're not putting her. Okay, we can put her on.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Desjardins. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
This is my friend Zach.
Hi, Zach.
Zach's a
Hi.
doctor. He's the best doctor I've ever ER doctor I've ever met. He's also the only ER doc. That's a joke we do every week and it never gets old.
It's funnier every time. Is there anything I can help you with? How are you feeling?
The same, the same.
The same. So nothing to help. You have a doctor right here ready to answer any questions and you don't want any help?
Yeah. No, I got to take a quote them and write them
Oh,
down.
my mom just woke up. You can tell it's in Winnipeg. So it's earlier there. Anyways, we're recording all this, so you're gonna be famous. So why don't I call you after we're done recording this podcast?
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye bye. Say bye to Zach.
Bye. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
What is it? So is she leaving the house? Remember we talked about
Went to get her haircut
oh, okay. With a mask or no?
with a mask, and the guy wore a mask and a shield and washes. I still think it's a bad move, but I mean, what are you gonna do?
It will be about if she ends up getting sick, you
It's
can say
not
I told you so.
I'm too young to be an orphan, so
You're definitely too young.
I'm only
And there's no good I told you so is not
can't really say I told you so, you know?
it doesn't feel good enough. It's not worth it.
No. I think this has been a really good podcast. Wait, so what happened with the guy? So you did resuscitate him with his chest tattoo?
I can't pretend that this was my story. This was an article in the New England Journal.
Right. Oh, right, New England, not just clam chowder.
But it could happen. I had actually had the conversation, the conversation with someone, and people actually, I remember people joking years ago, saying, "Oh, I'm going to get a tattoo across my chest so they don't resuscitate me." And then this was published. So they did resuscitate him, which is what we do.
Did they
And
get?
then ultimately, no, they didn't get in trouble, but ultimately they determined that he really didn't want to be resuscitated.
Oh.
They were in touch with some family, and they ended up essentially turning off the machines that were keeping him alive.
Oh.
So they essentially let him go.
Right.
You know, which is not, it's not like euthanasia where you actually give people medication to end their life.
Right.
This is a passive thing where without the machines, this person would have been dead.
Right.
And potentially, and as you know, people can be kept on machines for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And many people wouldn't want that. So, anyways, just how do you convey what you want when you're not able to convey what you want?
Right. Unless you put it in your Twitter bio or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, consent is a huge deal in Emerge, right? Because we get a lot of people who are altered mental status.
Right.
So whether you're drunk or high or psychotic or you have a brain tumor or you're or sometimes I said we put people on steroids for a number of reasons that can make you pretty loopy.
Yeah.
Or you're unconscious. Any of those can make you potentially not competent.
Right.
And if we have to do a treatment, resuscitation is like the extreme, but sometimes we need to give someone, they need surgery or they need a blood transfusion and they can't consent for themselves. Or the other one we get a lot is police, right? Like the police want, what's this guy's blood alcohol level, or do a tox screen on this guy. We can't do that without the person's consent, or they have to, if they get a court order, then we have to do it.
Right.
But we get in trouble if we give the police information.
Yeah.
Which I think makes sense because I want people telling me everything without the fear of being prosecuted.
Exactly.
So
if there's a cop right there with his handcuffs and his bully stick or whatever.
Yeah. So if I say, Chantal, did you use crack cocaine last night?
And I'm like, am I going to get in trouble if I tell you this?
Exactly. So I say, no way. I'm not telling anyone.
We're running out of time today already.
Oh.
It's been 20 minutes. Can I end on a tattoo story that I have?
Yes, please.
Did you have any tattoos?
No.
Did you have to think about it? Did you have one removed?
No, but no.
Okay, so neither did I. But when I used to work for a rock station in Montreal, Chaume, I was on the morning show, and we had a contest, and it was, what would you do for a free boat? And people could write in and they would say what they would do for a free boat. So one lady's like, oh, I'll roll around in bird seed and honey, and then I'll go stand in Bird Park. I don't even know where there's a bird park in Montreal, but she's like, and then I'll let the pigeons come get me or whatever. One guy's like, oh, I'll jump naked out of a plane. And one guy's like, I'll let Chantal tattoo Chaume across my forehead.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we had a tattoo, company come down, a guy.
That was the win? That was the winner?
So those were the three contestants. And the tattoo guy came in and he worked. I was trying to talk him out of it. Like, this is a bad idea. You're never going to get another job again. He's like, oh, I work in a box factory. It's not a big deal. I was like, well, still, at some point, maybe you'll want to do something where it matters what's written across your forehead. So I talked him down to just having Chaume written across his neck that I would do. And so I take, and I don't know if you've ever held a tattoo gun before, but
No.
it is very movie. Like it's very hard to control because it's so much air pressure inside. So I started to see, and I went like, woo, and it went like a 4-leaf clover. So I gave it to the, like, I convinced him, listen, let's let the
The
expert
professional.
write it and I'll just fill
Right.
it in. So we did it,
Right.
and he had shown written across his whole neck. And then we gave each one of these people a key. And it was on during F1 weekend on Crescent, and each one of them got to go to the boat and try the key in the boat. And one of them won the boat.
Oh my God.
So first it was the birdseed lady, tried it,
Yeah.
didn't work. Then it was the jump out of the plane naked guy, tried it,
So he actually did that.
worked. So even if the guy had Shome written across his neck, didn't win the boat.
Man, oh man. So I don't know if that's worth it.
I don't think it's worth it. I mean, you can't sell that on eBay, you know? You can't like stock a Chantal Shome tattoo.
That's a bummer. And you used real ink, right?
And I used, we used, it wasn't like a henna tattoo. Like it was real, like he still got it somewhere. Well,
that would have been nice of you to just use henna ink and then wash it off after.
Nobody really thought of that. Nobody really. Okay, we're out of time. This is we wanted to make it short and sweet, and this is we got to one of our topics. But next time, it was a good one though. It was a really good one.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking actually on my way home from work, I was thinking about how innocent that, because when I was thinking about drugs, all the drug knowledge I have now, and it's really not from use.
No.
But 20 years working in the merge, you've learned a lot about drugs.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a whole drug podcast one time.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. Looking at me, you wouldn't know that I'm just a nerdy doctor, right? You'd think, oh, this guy's been around.
Super edgy, very edgy.
Why doesn't this guy have the tattoo?
Tattoo,
right?
If you want, I can do it. I have a lot of experience now tattooing people. So
like MS-13 right here. It's like, right?
Yeah. I'll give you a deal on your, on your tattoo. All right, we're done here. You have a good weekend.
Hey, you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Zach Levine, the best ER doctor in the world. I'm Chantal Desjardins, and that's it. Episode 3.
You're the best Winnipegger.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.